Is Sweden collapsing? I would love to know your thoughts on this. Have they got bigger issues on immigration, crime, knife crime, gun violence than the UK? Have they got a massive unity issue? Are they losing its tradition and culture? Sweden used to be known as one of the safest countries in Europe, but the statistics today are saying different. Sweden has seen a significant increase in organised crime. We're talking drug trafficking, human smuggling, knife crime, gun crime. When it comes to rapes, over the last 2 decades, they've seen a massive rise in gang-related homicides and crime. And this isn't me saying, this is the statistics saying that this has increased steeply over neighbourhoods with high proportions of immigration, with high proportions of immigrants and children of immigrants. According to the data, 20% of Sweden now have citizens that were born abroad. According to the data and the statistics and what the government have been saying, they have had massive issues with integration, where people are coming from abroad and they're not being able to integrate into Swedish society. This could be down to an education issue, language barrier, and possible social inclusion, but I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I know I have a lot of you from Sweden that have been following this channel and I'm extremely grateful for that. But what I want to know is, have you seen these issues arising over the last 2 decades? And what would you put it down to? I remember growing up as Sweden being that country that everyone talk about as being one of the safest countries in Europe, that you would go to live a nice peaceful life. But from what I'm seeing online and reading, that is no longer the case anymore. And I want to know if this is true. People are talking about that there are no-go zone areas within Sweden. Whether these are sort of the poorer neighbourhoods, I don't know. It's not a complete no-go zone area in such of a war, but it's an area where people say it is unsafe for you to go to because it is likely that you could be attacked. And I want to know if this is true. Has Sweden collapsed and really fallen that much that there is now neighbourhoods that you do not want to enter because there is a chance that you could be a victim of knife or gang violence, gun violence, or possible rape? What the government are saying though, this is an integration issue. So is it down to immigration and migrants being unable to integrate into Swedish society? Because they're saying they are cutting down on immigration policies. They're making it tougher when people come from abroad to be able to now settle into Sweden. They are now increasing their deportations. So if you do not have a right to live in Sweden, they are speeding up the process to send you back to your home country. Sweden have been preparing its citizens for a war with Russia for a very long time now. They're actually going through different policies, different procedures on what you should do if they did enter a war with Russia. But do they need to be dealing with what's going on inside Sweden more than what is going on outside of Sweden? I just want to read some figures for you and a bit of data. So according to Swedish National Council for Crime Prevention, gun homicide contributes significantly to lethal violence in Sweden. In 2024, firearms were used in 45 lethal violence cases, about 49% of all such cases. Compared with other European countries, Sweden's gun homicide rate has climbed sharply over the past 2 decades. According to a recent report from 2023, Sweden's gun crime death rate is the second highest in Europe among countries with comparable data, with only a few countries scoring worse per capita. Has it really got that dangerous and that serious in Sweden? People say it's the highest anywhere in Europe. It is most probably one of the highest. According to the most recent data 2022, Sweden registered 1.1 lethal violence cases per 100,000 inhabitants that year. But it does say The overall murder and homicide rate, all cases, not just guns, in Sweden historically remains relatively low compared with global standards. Okay, you've got, yeah, you think such countries as Cuba, Mexico, El Salvador, most probably a lot higher, but it is one of the highest in Europe. That is crazy considering it used to be one of the safest countries that most people talked about. And like I said, a lot of them are pulling it down to integration issues from migrants coming from abroad and trying to integrate into Sweden's society. We're seeing this across Europe. This is what all the protests are about. This is the uproar in UK and in Europe. But it looks like it isn't just hitting Germany, France, UK. It's hitting other countries as well, such as Sweden. So the data says the high rate of gun homicide in Sweden is relatively high for Western Northern Europe, but not necessarily the highest of all of Europe. But still, you know, it's not as high as the Balkans. But for Sweden that used to be such a calm and lovely country, it's pretty scary. The rise in shooters since the mid-2000s appears to be driven largely by gang and organised crime violence concentrated in certain urban areas and vulnerable neighbourhoods. So is this the sort of no-go zone areas that people are talking about? So very, very interesting. I'd love to know what your actual thoughts are on this. What's it like in your neighbourhood? Do you feel safe cutting around, walking around? Or do you feel like if you do go out at night within certain areas or where you live or in most areas, that you do not no longer feel safe walking around your own communities, your own country, that you could become a victim of crime? Very, very interesting. This is not the sort of video I thought I would be doing on Sweden. Normally we do nice reaction videos on Swedish military, them preparing for war with Russia, going through their new military equipment. But I never thought I'd be doing this on Sweden. Very, very interesting to me. So hopefully you can sort this out. It looks like they're having a massive, massive crackdown on immigration within Sweden. Like I said, they're changing their immigration policies and they're looking at speeding up their deportation. So if you have no right to stay in Sweden, they're going to process you a lot faster and they're going to ship you out back to your home country. Do you agree with this? Do you think everyone has a right to claim asylum within Sweden, or do you think the government are going the right way about this? Looking at the statistics, it looks like they are, but I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Once again, thanks for watching. I appreciate all of your support. Please, if you could, give us a massive thumbs up and don't forget to click that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a channel member. So a big shout out to all of our channel members. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.